नमस्सर्वेभ्यः। अद्य तिङन्तप्रक्रियायाम् ऊनचत्वारिंशः पाठः। जुलै मासस्य 5मः दिनाङ्कः। येनाक्षरसमाम्नायमधिगम्य महेश्वरात् कृत्स्नं व्याकरणं प्रोक्तं तस्मै पाणिनये नमः। वाक्यकारं वररुचिं भाष्यकारं पतञ्जलिं पाणिनिं सूत्रकारं च प्रणतोऽस्मि मुनित्रयम्। चतुर्णां गणानां सार्वधातुकलकारेषु रूपाणि अधीतानि। अद्यारभ्य अन्येषां गणानां रूपसिद्धिं पश्यामः। गतवर्गस्य एकः अभ्यासः आसीत्। तस्य कक्ष्यायां चर्चा मास्तु। तस्य उत्तराणि अहं वेब्सैट् मध्ये स्थापयामि। पश्यन्तु। यदि प्रश्नाः सन्ति तर्हि अग्रिमवर्गे चर्चां कुर्मः. If you have any questions or any specific doubts regarding any of the exercises, we can discuss in the next class. For this class, let us proceed with the learning the prakriya of the other ganas. यथा वयं पूर्वं दृष्टवन्तः, धातुपाठे धातवः दशसु गणेषु विभक्ताः। भादिः, अदादिः, जुहोत्यादिः, दिवादिः, स्वादिः, तुदादिः, रुधादिः, तनादिः, क्रियादिः, चुरादिः इति 10 गणाः। गणस्य नाम तु तत्तद्गणस्य प्रथमस्य धातोः भवति. So भादि starts with bhu, adadi with ad, juhotyadi with hu, divadi with div, swadau su, tudadau tud, rudhadau rudh, tanadau tan, क्रियादौ क्री, चुरादौ चुर. एते प्रथम धातवः. तत्र प्रथम, चतुर्थ, षष्ठ, दशम गणस्य धातूनां प्रक्रिया सार्वधातुकलकारेषु प्रक्रिया अस्माभिः अधीता. यदि संख्यां पश्यामः, एषा धातुसंख्या. सो धातुपाठस्य पाठान्तरानपि योजयित्वा एषा संख्या भवति. 2030-200 धातवः. सिद्धान्तकौमुद्याः क्रमेण एतावन्तः धातवः 9,200 धातवः भवन्ति. अत्र अस्माभिः इदानीम् अधीतानां धातूनां संख्यां पश्यामः चेत् 1988 अथवा 1755 इति धातवः अस्माभिः अधीताः. We have covered a majority of the dhatu patha. There are only around 226 dhatus left according to the Siddhanta Kaumudi. Slightly a few dhatus more according to the even if we consider all the pathantaras, which is I think less than 1/8 or about 1/8 of the sankhya. So we have already done a majority. So अन्येषु गणेषु ये धातवः सन्ति ते प्रायेण विशिष्टाः धातवः. चतुर्णाम् एतेषां गणानां रूपाणि एव प्रायेण प्रयोगे श्रूयन्ते. अन्येषां गणानां रूपाणि किञ्चित् विशिष्टानि. अतः इतः परं तेषां गणानां प्रक्रियां पश्यामः. अदन्तगणाः अनदन्तगणाः इत्यस्य कोऽर्थः? विकरणप्रत्ययं पश्यामश्चेत् भ्वादिगणे कर्तरि शप् इति सूत्रेण विहितः शप् विकरणः तत्र अ इति शिष्यते. धातौ विकरणं योजयामश्चेत् पठ अन्ते ह्रस्वः अकारः श्रूयते. एवं दिवादौ दिवादिभ्यः श्यन् इति श्यन् विकरणः विधीयते. नृत्य अन्ते ह्रस्वः अकारः. तुदादौ श विकरणः तुदादिभ्यः शः इति सूत्रेण तत्रापि अकारः शिष्यते लिख अ लिख अन्ते ह्रस्वः अकारः चुरादौ पुनः शप् विकरणः निचि कृते कर्तरि शप् इति शप् विकरणः कथय इति अन्ते ह्रस्वः अकारः अतः एते चत्वारः गणाः अदन्ताः इति उच्यन्ते यत्र धातौ विकरणस्य योजनेन ह्रस्वः अकारः अन्ते विद्यमानम् अङ्गं सिद्ध्यति. So we derive an anga which ends in hrasva akara. So as we have seen that hrasva akara it has an effect on the pratyaya and also on the interaction of the anga with the pratyaya. Pratyayasya siddhau api adantadanga vidyamananam pratyayanam kachana prakriya bhavati. तथैव अङ्गस्य प्रत्ययस्य योजने यदि ह्रस्वाकारः अस्ति तर्हि समानप्रक्रिया अत एव एतेषां चतुर्णां गणानां प्रक्रिया प्रायेण समानी भवति. For the rest, if you see, द्वितीये अदादिगणे अधिप्रभृतिभ्यः शपः इत्यनेन शपः लुक् भवति. शप् विधीयते तस्य शपः लुक् भवति. यदि लुक् भवति तर्हि विकरणः न श्रूयते साक्षात् धातुः तथा प्रत्ययः. अतः अन्ते धातोरन्ते यः वर्णः स एव श्रूयते. जुहोत्यादिगणेऽपि जुहोत्यादिभ्यः श्लुः इत्यनेन शपः लोपः श्लुना लोपः. सो प्रत्ययस्य लुक् श्लु लुपः प्रत्ययस्य लोपः भिन्नैः शब्दैः विधीयते. तत्र अदादिगणे लुका लुप्यते प्रत्ययः जुहोत्यादिगणे तु श्लुना लुप्यते. अतः तत्रापि अन्ते धातौ विद्यमानः वर्णः एव श्रूयते. स्वादिगणे स्वादिभ्यः श्नुः इति श्नु विकरणः नु इति शकारस्य लोपे नु इति अतः सु नु इति उकारान्तम् अङ्गं सम्पद्यते. रुधादिगणे रुधादिभ्यः श्नम् इति श्नम् विकरणः न इति शिष्यते. अस्य विशेषः अयं मित् मित्वात् मिदचोन्त्यात् परः इति सूत्रेण अन्त्यादचः परः श्नं विकरणः. So it sits in the middle of the dhatu after the final ach in the dhatu. So the what we hear at the end is again the last letter of the dhatu itself. तनादिगणे तनादिक्रीञ्झ उहु इति उ विकरणः अतः अङ्गम् उकारान्तं तनु. क्रियादिगणे श्ना विकरणः ना इति भवति अतः अन्ते आकारः श्रूयते पुनाति. एते अनदन्ताः गणाः. So these ganas are called anadantas because the anga after adding the vikarana will not be adanta. Adantam na bhavati. Yatra angam adantam na bhavati tatra pratyayaha api bhidyante. I said there are two ways, there are three things which we have to study for the anadanta angas. Prathamam pratyayasya nirmanam. Pratyaya nirmane kaha bhedah. अदन्तेभ्यः अङ्गेभ्यः ये प्रत्यया विधीयन्ते तथा अनदन्तेभ्यः अङ्गेभ्यः ये प्रत्ययाः तत्र कः भेदः प्रत्ययस्य निर्माणे कः भेदः इति. द्वितीयं धातोः विकरणस्य योजनं कथं. How do we add the vikarana to the dhatu. तृतीयं अङ्गस्य प्रत्ययस्य योजनं कथं. How do we add these pratyayas to the anga derived from the dhatu plus vikarana? So these are the three main things that we will be studying. अन्यत्तु प्रायेण समानं भवति इत्संज्ञा लोपः अथवा प्राकृतिकानि कार्याणि इत्यादीनि समानानि विशेषस्तु अत्र प्रत्ययस्य निर्माणे विकरणस्य योजने विकरणनिमित्तानि अङ्गकार्याणि तथा प्रत्ययनिमित्तानि कार्याणि अत्रैव विशेषः द्रष्टव्यः आदौ अनदन्तेभ्यः अङ्गेभ्यः के प्रत्ययाः भवन्ति इति द्रष्टव्यम् So latlakarah. So if you look at the latlakara parasmaipara pratyayah adanteshu angeshu yatha tathaiva pratyayah bhavanti. Tip pakarasya itsamya lope ti tas sasajushoruhu kharavasanayor visarjaniyah sakarasya rutve visarge taha झि झोन्तः इति झकारस्य अन्तादेशे अन्ति ति तः अन्ति सि थः थ मि वः मः प्रत्ययाः समानाः. The pratyayas are the same as they were for the adanta angas because there is no karya here which depends on the anga or on the ending of the anga. Adantam angam ashritya kimapi karyam nasti. Sasajushoruhu ityasya angam napekshate. Tatu ante vidyamanasya sakarasya rutvam tasya cha visargah. झोन्तः इत्यत्रापि अंगस्य अपेक्षता नास्ति. प्रत्ययावयवस्य झस्य अन्तादेशः स्यात्. अतः लट्लकारे परस्मैपरप्रत्ययाः समानाः. ति तः अन्ति सि थः थ मि वः मः. आत्मनेपदे तु भेदः दृश्यते. यदि स्मरन्ति आत्मनेपदे ते इते अन्ते इति प्रत्ययाः तत्र ते इते इत्यत्र आतोङितः इति सूत्रेण अदन्ताद् अङ्गात् परस्य ङितः आकारस्य इयादेशः स्यात्. So अदन्ताद् अङ्गात् परस्य आकारस्य इयादेशः. So this karya depends on the anga being adanta. अत्र तु अदन्तम् अङ्गं नास्ति इत्यतः आतोङितः इति सूत्रम् अनदन्तेषु गणेषु न प्रवर्तते इति प्रथमः अंशः. So that we will not apply atam becoming ij tam and the yakara deleted by lopa vyorvali to get itam. So tat na bhavati atra. द्वितीयम् आत्मनेपदेष्वनतः इति एकं सूत्रमस्ति. So यदि अष्टाध्याय्यां पश्यामः झकारस्य आदेशे एतानि त्रयाणि सूत्राणि प्रवर्तन्ते. झोन्तः प्रत्ययादीनाम् इत्यतः प्रत्ययस्य इति अनुवर्तते. प्रत्ययावयवस्य झकारस्य अन्तादेशः स्यात्. So there are no other conditions attached to it. The next sutra says at abhyastat. Abhyastat parasya झकारस्य adadeshah bhavati. Instead of ant, we replace it with at. Kada abhyastam. Abhyastam iti kachita samya. Yatra dvitvam kriyate angasya. So there are cases where we do the dvitva. This is what we see particularly in the third gana. Da becomes dadati. Bhi becomes bibheti. Who becomes juhoti. So sarvatra angasya dvitvam bhavati. Yatra dvitvam bhavati तत्र उभे अभ्यस्तम् इति संज्ञासूत्रमस्ति. So both parts of the doubled, whatever we have doubled, are together, they are called as abhyasta. अभ्यस्त इति संज्ञा अस्ति. अतः अभ्यस्तात् परस्य झकारस्य प्रत्ययावयवस्य झस्य अत् आदेशः स्यात्. So instead of ant we replace by at. तथैव आत्मनेपदेषु अनतः इति सूत्रमस्ति. इदानीं पश्यामः. आत्मनेपदेषु इति सप्तमी बहुवचनम्, अनतः इति पञ्चमी एकवचनं, प्रत्ययस्य इति अनुवर्तते, झः इति अनुवर्तते, अत् अदभ्यस्तादित्यतः अत् इत्यपि अनुवर्तते, अङ्गस्य इत्यधिकारः. सो अनतः अङ्गस्य, अतः इत्युक्ते अदन्तस्य अङ्गस्य, अनतः अतः अनदन्तस्य अङ्गस्य, पञ्चमी विभक्तौ परिवर्तते. अयं तु षष्ठी. सो अङ्गस्य इति वस्तुतः षष्ठी विभक्ति, किन्तु कदाचित् पञ्चम्या परिवर्तते. सो द अधिकार अङ्गस्य, so depending on the sutra it appears both as panchami and as shashti. अत्र तु पञ्चम्याः. अनदन्तात् अङ्गात् परस्य प्रत्ययावयवस्य झस्य अत् आदेशः स्यात् आत्मनेपदेषु. आत्मनेपदेषु, in आत्मनेपदस्, अनदन्तात् अङ्गात् परस्य, यदि अङ्गम् अदन्तं नास्ति तर्हि झकारस्य अत् इत्यादेशः भवति. So instead of ant we replace it by at. झ इत्यस्ति. त आतां झ, झ इति आत्मनेपदप्रत्ययः. तत्र झकारस्य अदादेशे अत इति भवति. तत्र तु अन्त इति भवति. एत्वे कृते अन्ते, टितात्मनेपदानां टेरे इत्यनेन एत्वे अन्ते, ते इते अन्ते. अत्र तु ते आते आकारस्य इ आदेशः न भवति. ते आते अते, झकारस्य अत् इत्यादेशे कृते अत, एत्वे अते. सुन्वते कुर्वते, सुनुते सुन्वाते सुन्वते, कुरुते कुर्वाते कुर्वते. अतः अनदन्तेभ्यः अङ्गेभ्यः परस्य झकारस्य अदादेशः भवति आत्मनेपदेषु. परस्मैपदेषु तु झोन्तः इति अन्तादेशः, आत्मनेपदेषु अदभ्यस्तात् आत्मनेपदेष्वनतः इति सूत्रेण अत् इत्यादेशः. झ अत. लङ्लकारे अकुर्वत इत्यादि रूपाणि. इदानीम् आत्मनेपदप्रत्ययान् पश्यामः चेत् सर्वत्र टित आत्मनेपदानां टेरे इत्यनेन एत्वं भवति. झस्य आत्मनेपदेष्वनतः इति अत, टितात्मनेपदानां टेरे इत्यनेन अत इत्यस्य टि अकारः, अकारस्य एकारादेशे अते. ते आते अते. से थासस्य इति थासः से, आथे द्वे. ए वहे महे. एते अनदन्तेभ्यः अङ्गेभ्यः आत्मनेपदप्रत्ययाः. भेदस्तु आते आथे. सो अत्र आतोङितः इत्यस्य प्रवृत्तिः न भवति. अते इत्यत्र आत्मनेपदेष्वनतः इत्यनेन अदादेशः. एते विशेषाः. So these three pratyayas differ in between the adantaganas and anadantaganas. Adantaganebhyah tu te ite ante, se ithe dhve, e vahe mahe iti pratyayah. Atra te ate ate, se athe dhve, e vahe mahe iti pratyayah. तः परस्मैपदप्रत्ययेषु भेदः नास्ति लट् लकारे. आत्मनेपदप्रत्ययेषु तु भेदः दृश्यते. Any questions? अग्रे सरामः. लङ्लकारः. लङ्लकारे सूत्रत्रयं प्रवर्तते परस्मैपदेषु तस्थस्थमिपां तां तं त अमः तस्थस्थमिपां तान्तं तामः इति प्रत्ययादेशाः नित्यं ङितः इत्यनेन उत्तमपुरुषस्य सकारान्तस्य ङिदुत्तमस्य लोपः अतः सकारस्य लोपे व म इतश्च इत्यनेन इकारान्तस्य प्रत्ययस्य लोपः अतः ति इत्यत्र त सि इत्यत्र स अन्ति झोन्तः आत्मनेपदेषु एव आत्मनेपदेष्वनतः इत्यस्य प्रवृत्तिः परस्मैपदेषु झोन्तः ततः इतश्च अन्त् संयोगान्तस्य लोपः इत्यनेन तकारस्य लोपे अन् त ताम् अन् स तं त अं व म अतः लङ्लकारे अपि परस्मैपदप्रत्ययेषु भेदः नास्ति. So there is no difference in the parasmaipada pratyayas between the adanta anga and the anadanta anga, because these three sutras तस्थस्थमिपां तान्तन्तामः नित्यङितः इतश्च कुत्रापि अङ्गस्य अपेक्षता नास्ति. So it does not specify अदन्ताद् अङ्गात्, सर्वत्र भवति. अतः समानाः प्रत्ययाः त ताम् अन् स तं त अं व म परस्मैपदप्रत्ययेषु भेदः नास्ति. आत्मनेपदप्रत्ययेषु पुनः आतोङितः इत्यस्य प्रवृत्तिः न भवति. झ इत्यत्र आत्मनेपदेष्वनतः इत्यनेन अदादेशः त आताम् अत. There we had त इताम् अन्त अदन्तादणात् त इताम् अन्त इति प्रत्ययः. अत्र तु त आताम् अत थाः आथां ध्वम् इ वहि महि. So पुनः त्रिषु प्रत्ययेषु भेदः. So आताम् and आथां, so akara is not replaced by e, and jha ityatra nakarah न श्रूयते, ant इति न श्रूयते, at इति श्रूयते. एते लङ्लकारे आत्मनेपद प्रत्ययाः. त आताम् अत थाः आथां ध्वम् इ वहि महि. Okay. Lot lakarah. Excuse me just one moment. लोट् लकारे परस्मैपद प्रत्ययाः. लोटो लङ्वत् इति सूत्रेण लङ्वत् अतिदेशः क्रियते. तस्थस्थमिपां तां तं त इति आदेशाः. नित्यं ङितः इति वस्मसोः सकारस्य लोपः भवति. इतश्च इत्यनेन इकारस्य लोपे प्राप्ते एरुः इकारस्य स्थाने उकारः. ति इत्यत्र तु. झि झोन्तः इति अन्तादेशः. एरुः इत्यनेन उकारे अन्तु. सि इत्यत्र सेर्ह्यपिच्च सेः हि सि इत्यस्य स्थाने हि इति आदेशः भवति. तत्र विशेषः पूर्वम् अतो हेः इत्यनेन अदन्ताद् अङ्गात् परस्य हेः लुक् स्यात्. So the he will get deleted if the anga is adanta. Atra tu adantam angam nasti ityatah he ityasya lopaha na bhavati. So he is retained. We hear the he. Tu tam antu हि तं त मी इत्यत्र अमादेशं बाधित्वा मेर्निः इत्यनेन नि आदेशः. So me is replaced by ni. After that आडुत्तमस्य पिच्च इति सूत्रेण लोडुत्तमस्य आट् आगमः भवति. So in all three pratyayas we have the akara added. Ani, ava, ama iti pratyayah. Tuhyos tatang ashishyanyatarasyam. So for tu and he, तुह्योः आशिषि यत्र आशीरर्थे लोट् भवति तत्र विकल्पेन तातङ् इति आदेशः भवति. So you have tu, tat, tam, antu, hi, tat, tam, ta, ani, ava, ama. एते लोट्लकारे परस्मैपदप्रत्ययाः. The only difference is in he. So if it is an adanta gana, ato he ityanena he luk bhavati. Anadanteshu ganeshu he luk na bhavati. So he is not deleted, it is heard. So that is the only difference in parasmaipada pratyayas for lot lakara. The rest is all the same. Tu, tat, tam, antu, hi, tat, tam, ta, ani, ava, ama. Any questions? So there's a question. Somebody says, I did not understand the rules for lang atmanepadi. Just go back one slide. So there's nothing special. In jha, instead of being replaced by anta, it is replaced by ata. Atmanepade shvanataha ityanena at ityadeshah. So you get ata. For atam and atham, if the anga were adanta, we would apply atongitaha to replace this a with y, and then the y would be deleted by lopoviorvali to get itam and itham. Atra tu angam adantam nasti ityatah atongitaha iti na pravartate. So nothing happens. The pratyayas, the original pratyayas are ta atam jha, thas atham dhvam, I vahi mahi. So तत्र किमपि न भवति. झ इत्यत्र आत्मनेपदे श्वनतः इत्यनेन अदादेशे अत, त आताम् अत. थास् ससर्षोरुः खरवयसानयोर्विसर्जनीयः इति सकारस्य ऋत्वे विसर्गे ठाः. थाः आथां ध्वम् I vahi mahi. So for the rest of the pratyayas there is no karya. Okay. Any questions so far? Lat, lang and the parasmaipada of lot lakara. Lot lakarasya atmanepada pratyayah. So as we know, sarvatra adanteshu ganeshu api. So before beginning the atmanepada pratyayas of lot, we derive the pratyayas of lat. Okay? So latlakarasya pratyayam svikritya tatah lotlakarasya pratyayah sadhyante. So latlakarasya pratyayah santi te, ate, ate, se, athe, dhve, e, vahe, mahe. एते लट्लकारस्य प्रत्ययाः. सर्वत्र ठितात्मनेपदानां टेरे थासस्य आत्मनेपदे श्वनतः इत्यस्य प्रवृत्तिः. So after that we get the latlakara pratyayas. Once we have the latlakara pratyayas, am etah. Latlakare yatra yatra ekarah asti tatra am adeshah kriyate. So te, e becomes tam. Ate becomes atam. Ate becomes atam. Athe becomes atham. Samabhyam vamo. Sakara vakarabhyam parasya ekarasya va am iti adesho. Sakaraduttarasya ekarasya va. So this becomes sva. Vakaraduttarasya ekarasya am. So this becomes dhvam. Tam, atam, atam, sva, आथां ध्वम् ए इत्यत्र एत ऐ इति ए वहे महे सर्वत्र एकारस्य ऐकारः so it becomes ऐ वहै महै ततः आडुत्तमस्य पिच्च इत्यनेन आडागमः आ ऐ आटश्च इति वृद्धौ ऐ आ वहै आ महै एते प्रत्ययाः ताम् आताम् अतां स्व आथां ध्वम् ऐ आवहै आमहै इति लोट्लकारे आत्मनेपदप्रत्ययाः. Okay, so as always the difference is in three pratyayas. One is in the jhi, so adabhyastadityanena क्षम्यताम् आत्मनेपदेष्वनतः इत्यनेन अदादेशः. So instead of antam we hear atam. So in atam and atham we do not have atong itah. Rest of the pratyayas are the same as what we see for adanta ganas. So tam atam atam swa atham dhvam ai avahai amahai. Vidhiling lakara. So if you look at the vidhiling lakara, the pratyayas themselves, they are very similar to lang lakara. So tas thas thamipam tam tam tamah. So ete adeshaah bhavanti tam tam ta am nityam nitah iti vasmasoho sakarasya lopah इतश्च इति ति स्योः ति सि इत्येतयोः इकारस्य लोपः त स झि इत्यत्र लिङ्लकारे विशेषः instead of झोन्तः or आत्मनेपदेशनतः we have झेर् जुस् लिङ्लकारे झि इत्यस्य जुस् इति आदेशः जुसि जकारस्य चुटु इत्यनेन इत्संज्ञा तस्य लोपे उस्. So this karya is specific to ling lakara. Jhi ityasya sthane us. So you have t, tam, us, s, tam, ta, va, ma. So these are the pratyaya adeshas. How do we convert the pratyaya itself? Tatha krite yasut parasmai padeshu udattah ngiccha. You know that parasmai padeshu ling lakara pratyayanam yasut iti agamaha bhavati. So we add yas to the beginning of each pratyaya. Sarvesham pratyayanam yasut agamaha bhavati. Sut tithoh yatra pratyaye takaraha thakaro va shruyate tatra sut agamaha sakarasya agamaha. ततः लिङ्गस्सलोपो अनन्त्यस्य लिङ्लकारे अनन्त्यस्य सकारस्य लोपः सार्वधातुकलिङ्गः. So in vidhiling the sakara of yasut and the sakara of sut are both deleted. So in all pratyayas we add yasut, wherever there is takara or thakara we add sut, and then we delete both sakaras by lingasalopo anantyasya. Right? In the adantagana, one other thing we do for everything is ato yeyah. Ya ityasya sthane iyadeshah sarvatra kriyate. Adantad angat parasya ya ityasya iyadeshah syat. That is why the pratyayas were it, itam, iyuhu, ihi, itam, ita, etc. Everywhere we have the iyadesha. Atra tu ato yeyah iti na pravartate. We will not have atoyeyah because it is not, the anga is not adanta. So everywhere we hear ya and not y. Sarvatra ya ityasyaiva shravanam bhavati. So there are a few cases where there is a sandhi. So first, if you look at this, so there is ya and t. We add yas, s, t. Yasut agame yas t. सुडागमे यास स त उभयोः सकारयोः लिङ्गस्य लोपोऽनन्त्यस्य इत्यनेन लोपे यात् यात् यातां यास् यातं यात याव याम सर्वत्र प्रत्ययस्य पूर्वं या इति श्रूयते स्थलद्वये सन्धिः या उस् when you have ya and us a plus u should have been o किन्तु उस्य अपदान्तात् इति विशिष्टं सूत्रमस्ति अपदान्तात् अकारात् उसी परे when followed by us there is purva rupa. This sutra is just before ato gune. We do purva rupa with ato gune. Similarly atrapi pararupa, not purva rupa, pararupa by ato gune. So before that अपदान्ताद् अकाराद् उसी परतः पररूपं भवति अतः आकारस्य उकारस्य स्थाने उकारादेशे युस् इति भवति. Okay. Similarly, when you have ya अमिपूर्वः इत्यनेन पूर्वरूपे याम् इति भवति. So everywhere we add ya to the pratyaya. So if the pratyaya begins with a swara, there is a sandhi. या उस् इत्यत्र उस्य पदान्ताद् इत्यनेन पररूपे युस् इति भवति. या इत्यत्र अमिपूर्वः इत्यनेन पूर्वरूपे याम् इति भवति. अतः प्रत्ययाः यात् त इत्यत्र पूर्वं या यात् यातां युः युस् ससजुषोरुः खरवसानयोर्विसर्जनीयः युः यात् यातां युः याः so यास् ससजुषोरुः खरवसानयोर्विसर्जनीयः याः यातं यात या अमिपूर्वः इत्यनेन पूर्वरूपे यां याव याम. अतः विधिलिङ्गलकारे प्रत्ययाः पूर्णतः भिद्यन्ते. They are completely different from what they were for the adantaganas, right? So yat yatam yuh yah yatam yata yam yava yama एते विधिलिङ्गलकारे परस्मैपद प्रत्ययाः. Any questions? So the question, do we add ya or ya? Ya, always it is ya because the agama is yasut, dirgha eva. So sarvatra dirghasya yojanam. The agama itself yas. So sakara is deleted by lingasalo upanantyasya. We have ya everywhere. Okay. So yat yatam yuh याः यातं यात याम याव याम. आत्मनेपदे किं भवति? So if you look at the pratyayas ta आतां रन् झस्य रन् इति सूत्रमस्ति. लिङ्लकारे झ इत्यस्य रन् इति सर्वादेशः. So we saw that even in the adantaganas. So ita iyatam iran इत्यत्रापि झस्य रन् इति स्यूयते. त आतां रन् थाः आतां ध्वम् इटो अत् इट् लिङ्लकारे इटः स्थाने अत् अकारः आदेशः. So you have a vahi mahi. Okay. So these are the pratyayadeshas. झस्य रन् इटो अत् इति सूत्रद्वयं विशिष्य लिङ्लकारे प्रवर्तते विधिलिङ्लकारे. So with these we add the agama siyut, linga siyut, parasmaipadeshu yasut, atmanepadeshu siyut iti agamah, siyuti siy iti shishyate, sut tithohu, yatra takaraha thakaro va asti tatra sudagamah, ubhayohu sakarayohu. So the sakara of siyut and the sakara of sut, so they are both deleted by lingasalopo anantyasya. I'm sorry, the heading here should have been atmanepara pratyayaha. So there is the, yeah, there is a, I have copied it from the previous slide. So it should be atmanepara pratyayaha. So lingasalopo anantyasya ityanena ubhayoho sakarayoho siyutah sutah cha sakarasya lopah lopo vyorvali ईय iti sarvatra shruyate. So we hear the ईय everywhere. Yatra pratyayah valadihi, where the pratyaya begins with a val, lopo vyorvali ityanena yakarasya lopah. So you have ta, ईय ta, yakarasya lopo vyorvali ityanena lope ita, ईय atam. So this is not valadi, so it is not deleted. Iyatam. Iy ran. Lopo vyorvali iti akarasya lope. Iran. Ita iyatam. Iran. Ithah. Iyatham. Idhvam. Iya. Ivahi. Imahi. So wherever this is pink, there is lopo vyorvali to delete the yakara. So if it starts with the swara, the yakara is heard. Yatam, iyatham, iya. Vidhiling lakare atmanepade bhedaha nasti. So this is what we had for the adantangas also, because there is no karya here which depends on the adantanga. The pratyayas are the same. Kutrapi bhedaha nasti. Ita iyatam iran, ithah iyatham idhvam, iya ivahi imahi. So parasmaipade sarveshu pratyayeshu bhedaha, atmanepade tu bhedaha nasti. Any questions? So Rao Mahodaya, what was your question? So I'll unmute you. हाँ, कहाँ प्रश्नः आसीत्?
Yeah, I sent a note whether we should add ya or ya, and you already answered that.
Ah, okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? So the pratyayas for anadanta angas are these: ti, tah, anti, si, thah, tha, mi, vaha, maha. So there is no difference from the adantanga pratyayaha. So these pratyayas are the same as what we had in the adantanga. Atmanepadeshu tu te, ate, ate, se, athe, dhve, e, vahe, mahe. Trishu sthaleshu bhedaha. So what is highlighted is where the pratyayas differ from the adanta anga. So we are already familiar with those. So where does it differ? It differs in three places. In jha, because of atmanepadeshvanataha, and in ate, athe, because of the atongitaha. There is no yadesha. If you see everywhere, so these three are what differ. Lati tatraiva bhedaha, langi, loti. Atmanepadeshu trishu sthaleshu eva bhedaha. Because of the additional application of atmanepadeshvanataha and because of the absence of atongitaha. Right? So te, ate, ate, se, athe, dhve, e, vahe, mahe. Lang lakare parasmaipade bhedaha nasti. T, tam, an, s, tam, ta, am, va, ma. Atmanepadeshu ta, atam, ata, thah, atham, dhvam, I, vahi, mahi. लोट् लकारे तु तात ताम अंतु hi tat. Atra he he look na bhavati. So the difference is he is not deleted because the anga is not adanta. It is heard. Adanteshu angeshu kimapi na shruyate. So he tat tam ta ani ava ama. Tam atam atam swa atham dhvam I avahai amahai. So in all three lakaras, these three pratyayas differ, right? So lotitu parasmaipade hi ityatra. Vidhiling lakare parasmaipade sarve pratyayaha bhinnaha, but because of only one sutra, we do not apply ato yeyaha. So because it is not adanta, we do not, ya is not converted to I. So we have yat, there it was itam yuhu. Here we have yat, yatam, yuhu, yah, yatam, yata, yam, yava, yama. Atmanepade bhedaha nasti. Siyut, sut, sakaralopaha, lopo vyorvali. Ita, iyatam, iran, ithah, iyatham, idhvam, iya, ivahi, imahi. एते अनदन्तेभ्यः अङ्गेभ्यः प्रत्ययाः. Any questions here? So the first thing I want all of you to do today is to sit and work out these pratyayas, the derivation of these pratyayas. So derive all the pratyayas and make sure that you are comfortable with the final forms of all these, because in further classes we will not look at the pratyaya derivation again. We will just take these forms and add them to the anga. So this is where you have to learn to derive the pratyaya and remember the final form of the pratyaya. So that is the first exercise for today. The second thing is, so in these pratyayas there is a division. These are of four kinds. The pratyayas which we have here, say 9 into 8, right? So these 72 pratyayas are divided into four classes, and those classes are very, very important. First, Sarvadhatuka, Pit, and Ardhadhatuka. All of them are Sarvadhatuka, right? Ting, Shit, Sarvadhatukam ityanena, ete sarvepi pratyayaha Sarvadhatukaha. Tatra kechana Pitaha, kechana Apitaha. So the first difference is between Pit and Apit. Okay. So if you look at Pit, Tip, Sip, Mip, these three are originally Pit. They have Pakara in them, which is It. So Ti, Si, Mi, Ete, Pitaha. Langlakare api T, S, Ete, Pitaha. Because they originally have Pakara as It. If you come to the Lot Lakara, there is a mistake here. Excuse me. Just 1 second. Okay. So you see lot. So ti, si, mi. So ti gets converted to tu. It is pit. So mi, mip gets ni. This is also pit. But he, ser, he, apicha. So this is where that apit comes into play. In the whole of the Adantagana, we never paid attention to it. But the sutra says, ser he apicha. So specifically, this he is stated to be apit. Even though si is pit, he is not pit. Right? So atra tu ani iti dvau eva pit pratyayau. Tat is ngit tuhyoho tatang. So it becomes ngit. As soon as it is ngit, ngiccha pinna, pichanginna. That is the standard rule. If it is ngit, it is not pit. If it is pit, it is not ngit. So in these pratyayas, ngit and pit are mutually opposing. If something is pit, it is not ngit. If it is ngit, it is not pit. Right? So tatang is not pit. So here you have tu and ani. These two are, tu is pit and me is also pit. But there is also something art uttamasya picture, right? So just a second. There is, huh. So aduttamasya picture says the loduttamasya adagamah syat sachapit. So specifically the art, wherever we have art, the pratyaya becomes pit. So ani, ava, ama, all of them are pit. Also in Atmanepada, I, Avahai, Amahai. These are also pit because of the art agama, ad uttamasya picca. So ad uttamasya picca specifically says that the ad agama is pit. So Serhya picca specifically states that he is not pit. Ad uttamasya picca states that art is pit. Okay, even though there is no pakara, it is treated as pit. So in lot lakara, we have the uttama purusha pratyayas are always pit, and tu is originally pit because of the tip, right? So these are pit. If you come to vidhiling lakara, there is yasut. Yasut parasmai padeshu udattaha ngiccha. So this the sutra says that it is ngit. So wherever we add yasut, there is no pit. Even tip, sip, mip are not pit because you are adding yasut, which is ngit. So if it is ngit, it automatically cancels the pitva. Wherever something becomes ngit, it cancels the pitva property. So in vidhiling lakara, all pratyayas are apit. So lati, langi, ti, si, mi, t, s, ete pitah. Lot lakare uttama purusha pratyayaha tatha tu ete pitah. So other than these, all other pratyayas are apit. Clear? So pit, apit, very, very, very important. So if this is not clear, you will not get the correct form in the anadanta gana. So in the adanta ganas, it does not matter because the ending is a, there is no possibility of guna. So it does not matter. But as soon as we enter the anadanta gana, as soon as you see a pratyaya, you should think, is it pit or apit? So all other karyas come later. So pit and apit. Ete atra trayaha, trayaha, shat. So you have 18 and 1, 19. Uh, sorry, 12 and 1, 13. So 3 plus 3, 6, 3, 9, 3, 12 and 13. So there are 13 pit pratyayas and everything else it is apit. So there is nothing. So these are pit and the rest are all apit. Clear? So first thing is to know which is pit and which is apit. So once we are clear with that, within these we have further qualification. That is, I mean, there is no sutra for that. It's very easy. Which is haladi, which is ajadi. So there is haladi pit and ajadi pit. So if you look at these, ti, si, mi, t, s. So all these are haladi pit pratyayaha because they start with a hal. So there's nothing. So ani, ava, ama, ai, avahai, amahai. All these are ajadi pit. So tu is again haladi pit. So the next thing we look at it is, so ti, si, mi, tu, s, tu, sorry, not he. Um, uh, okay. So ti, si, mi, tu, s, and tu. These six are haladi pit pratyayaha, right? So they start with a hal and they are pit. The rest, ani, ava, ama, I, avahai, amahai. These are ajadi pit. Okay. So pit, first recognize the pit and then which is haladi, which is ajadi. It's pretty easy. So that's all. So again, in the apit, we need to know which is haladi and which is ajadi. So whichever is in blue is ajadi apit, right? So anti, ate, ate, athe, a. So wherever. So these are all ajadi apit. The rest are all haladi apit. I should have added one more. So whatever is not marked is haladi and apit. So the pratyayas, there are four classes. First, pit and apit. So then haladi pit sarvadhatukaha, ajadi pit sarvadhatukaha, ajadi apit sarvadhatukaha, and haladi apit sarvadhatukaha. So first division is always pit and apit. Once you know that, I mean, whether it's ajadi or haladi, it's very easy to know. So most of the karyas which we see for the anadanta angas will come under four classes. What happens if the pratyaya is haladi pit? What happens if it is ajadi pit? What happens if it is haladi apit? And what if it is ajadi apit? So just four classes. So okay, so as usual, I mean, I don't know what I was thinking when I prepared this. So everywhere I made a mistake with the he. So I'll just change it. So he is apit. Always remember. Okay, so this is the correct table. He is apit. Okay. So dark green, haladi pit. Light green is the ajadi pit. So in blue we have the ajadi apit. So the rest is all haladi and apit. Okay. So the second thing you will all do today is, once you have the derived pratyayas and are familiar with the pratyayas, try to classify each of them, which is pit, which is apit, and then in each of those, make those two classes first, and then in each list, which is haladi and which is ajadi. So you will get four sets of pratyayas. So most karyas will depend on what kind of a pratyaya. So recognizing the pratyaya which it is very important. So it happens, I mean, the first day it looks sort of complicated, but once we keep doing this for everything, it becomes very easy, it becomes very clear. Okay, any questions? So don't get worried by looking at this. I mean, generally the tendency is in the first four, those four ganas, we are familiar with the forms and the karya is also easy. So it's very seems easy. Once we step into the second set, there is already a mental block because we are not familiar with the forms of these ganas. Generally, we are not. And then this classification also might seem daunting, but it is not. The prakriya is as easy as ever. It's just the classification. That is how Panini did this. You have to get those classes into mind, and then the derivation becomes pretty easy. Okay, so don't worry. Correct. So, as somebody says, pit and apit, you should know because it has to apply the sutra. Ajadi haladi, it's, I mean, just looking at the pratyaya, you will always know. But you should get it into your mind that you have to think every time, is this ajadi or haladi before you do the karya. That's all. So, ajadi haladi, you will know. So, for pit and apit, one is having pakara as it, but also the sutras like serhya picha, aduttamasya picha. Yasat parasmaipadeshu udatto ngiccha. So you should know the sutra fully and pay attention to what the sutra is telling about the itva. Okay. So we will stop here. Please work on these pratyayas and be familiar with them by the next class. Okay. येनाक्षरसमाम्नायमधिगम्य महेश्वरात् कृत्स्नं व्याकरणं प्रोक्तं तस्मै पाणिनये नमः वाक्यकारं वररुचिं भाष्यकारं पतञ्जलिं पाणिनिं सूत्रकारं च प्रणतोऽस्मि मुनित्रयम्. Yes, four factors are pit, apit, and in each of them ajadi and haladi. Okay. So, yeah, somebody asked about the Bangkok conference. Well, the conference was very good. There were more than, I think, around 550 or 600 papers were presented in various fields of Sanskrit. So it was organized with two governments this time, and both the Indian government and the Thai government were supporting it because the Thai queen, she herself is a Sanskrit student and a supporter of Sanskrit. So it was a very nice conference. The organized well, and Sushma Swaraj was there for the inauguration. She spoke in Sanskrit both at the inauguration and at the dinner which was hosted by the embassy. So one thing special about this conference was the emphasis on, spoken Sanskrit also. Okay, which was generally the conferences are confined to academic sessions, and there is not much emphasis on Sanskrit as a bhasha. There was, so that was nice. Recording, there is no, as my paper, there's no recording. I just have a presentation. So my presentation was on text on the Mahabhashya. That is what I'm working for my PhD. It is called Vidvan Mukha Bhushanam. It is not a commentary. It's a very nice text. What it tries to do is to summarize the Siddhanta of the Mahabhashya in the form of shlokas. So there are verses. So Mahabhashya, I don't know how many of you are familiar with the Mahabhashya. So Mahabhashya is the work in Vyakarana, Paniniya Vyakarana. It's the last say for anything that you have a question about. So it's a huge text. All Shastras in our parampara follow this Sutra Vartika Bhashya. So Bhashya is generally the detailed commentary or the detailed discussion on um, each sutra. So what there are many questions. The Bhashya goes in the form of a conversation. So for each sutra he raises questions and he answers them. So there's a lot of discussion which can get pretty confusing for beginners. So what this text tries to do is to summarize the Siddhanta in the form of short verses. So each verse tells you what is a Siddhanta for a particular section of the Bhashya, and it also tries to give a example from daily life to, for that Siddhanta. So that is the text which I am working. I'm doing the critical edition of that text for my PhD. So I gave a presentation on that about the salient features of the text and what it tries to do, and from different angles of the text and so on. So the text is authored by somebody called Prayaga Venkatadri Bhatta. So there is no more information about the author in the manuscript itself. So based on internal evidences, probably 17th century is my, this must have been written around 17th century. So very nice feature of the text is that it gives a view of the social life in that time, because he gives examples from daily life. So you also get an idea of social life in addition to the Shastra. So that's one, it's a nice text. But no, yeah, there was no recording because there was no facility for recording there. With that. So I think that's it. How long was it? Mean, how long was the presentation? I mean, each present for all presentations was standard 20 minutes of presentation and 5 minutes of discussion. So that was the time for most presentations. And as I said, I mean, one of the highest recorded number of presentations was in this conference. More than 500, I think nearly close to 550 papers were presented. So they said that, I mean, it was one of the highest numbers among all World Sanskrit Conference. And it is held every 3 years, so in different parts of the world. That was 5 days. The conference was for 5 days, from last Sunday to Thursday, I guess. So where is the book available? You mean the book on the Vidwan Mukha Bhushanam? It is not yet. I'm doing the critical edition for my PhD. So once I give my thesis, somebody can, I mean, I have to see if I can publish it. So that's later after I finish my PhD. So can anybody attend the conference? I mean, it's open, but there is a registration fee for attending, either as a presenter or as a delegate. If you want to present a paper, you have to send an abstract in advance. They call for abstract pretty in advance. Say the next conference is 3 years later. The next conference will be in Canada. Okay, so that's in Vancouver. So in 2018. Okay, but they start calling for papers next year maximum. So it's a long process for each. So you have to send in your abstract, and if the abstract is accepted, then you'll have to register and then attend. If you just want to attend, there is also, I mean, you can also register and attend. So where are you doing my PhD from? I'm doing my PhD from Madras University. Dr. Narasimhan is my guide. Oh yes, I mean, I think next for the next conference, like those who are in the US or Canada, they'll find it much easier to attend because it's much closer, but it's much farther for us too. So let us see. It's a long time away, so we do not know. Um, yeah, the Oriental conference, I think it's still on. So I am not sure. My husband says it was in Kashmir last time, but I don't have know about that. Uh, So, do I live in Chennai or Bangalore? I am in Chennai. I was in Bangalore before. I mean, after my marriage, I shifted to Chennai. So I'm now in Chennai. Okay, then there was one question. Sorry, with this discussion, I forgot there was one question about the class. Somebody asks, what do I mean by working on the pratyayas and an example? What I mean is, I mean, you just have to derive these pratyayas. I mean, everything starts with tiptas ji. So derive these pratyayas from tiptas ji for the different lakaras and then classify them into these pith and apith, and also about the haladi ajadi. Okay, so that's all about the pratyaya. So did we attend any other session in the conference? Oh yes, I mean we attended quite a few sessions. There were two. There were plenary sessions. One was by Chamu Krishna Shastri, which was very nice. He spoke about the, the how Sanskritas need to. He was rather good. How researchers or academicians are focusing on just the posts, whether it's the VCs or the registrars post, and not really working for Sanskrit. So he spoke very well about the need to change the direction and looking at Sanskrit as a bhasha, developing it as a bhasha and then as the this one. So that was a fantastic. Oh, I hear that it's available on YouTube. Please do listen to it. It was very nice session. So there was also one more session by Rajiv Malhotra. So he also spoke on the insider and outsider view of Sanskrit and this. So that was also a very nice session. So plenary sessions were very good. So yeah, if so people are asking for Krishna Shastri's speech. So if somebody can give the link, maybe others can all. Okay, so all plenary sessions are on YouTube apparently. So what is the word? I mean, is there any keyword for which they can search, or will World Sanskrit Conference give it? I do not know. I have not looked for it. So please send a link to it. So if you can send the link to me, I mean, maybe we can share it with everybody. So please do watch those. It will be nice. Okay. So here is the link. I'm sending one of the links to which was to everybody in the chat. So that is Rajiv Malhotra's speech, the YouTube link. So, and this is the link to uh, Chamu Krishna Shastri Mahodaya's speech on YouTube. So you can uh, try watching those. Okay. Okay. Okay, then we'll stop here. Have a good week ahead, and next week we'll see the other ganas and how to derive the forms. ಧನ್ಯವಾದ.